I'm Chelsea, 29F. I have an older sister, Morgan, 32F. Growing up in rural Georgia, we didn't have a lot, but somehow, Morgan always got the best of what we did have. My mom, Denise, was a single parent after our dad left when I was 5. He just packed up one day, left a note on the kitchen counter, and vanished. From that moment on, it was the three of us. Except, not really. From the outside, it looked like a tight-knit family. But the reality was that Morgan was the son, and I was the afterthought. If Morgan wanted ballet lessons, Mom worked extra shifts. If I asked for piano lessons, I was told, we can't afford it. When Morgan crashed the family car at 17, Mom said, accidents happen. When I spilled juice on the carpet at 10, she said, you're always so careless. It was a million little things. Birthdays? Morgan had themed parties. Clowns, rented bounce houses, professional cakes. My birthdays? A half-eaten sheet cake from the discount bin. Morgan got a car when she graduated. I got told to take the bus. And maybe the worst part? Morgan wasn't even nice about it. She knew she was the favorite and wore it like a tiara. She used to call me Plan B and Beta Chelsea. Once, when I was 14, I overheard her telling her friends, if Chelsea had been born first, Mom probably would have tied her tubes. They all laughed. I cried in the laundry room with the door locked. Still, I stayed close. I helped out. I followed the rules. I tried to make Mom proud. But it was like screaming into a void. Nothing I ever did measured up to Morgan. When Morgan went to UCLA on a cheer scholarship, Mom cried for a week. When I got accepted to a local state school on academic merit, she barely blinked. Morgan got pregnant at 22, out of wedlock, and Mom turned into a doting grandmother overnight. I once brought home a guy I'd been dating for 6 months, and Mom asked me if I thought he was settling. By 26, I had moved 3 hours away, got a job in publishing, and tried to build my own life. But Mom always found a way to make me feel like an outsider in my own family. Thanksgiving? I was asked to bring whatever you can afford. Morgan showed up with catered food and got applause. Then 3 years ago, things changed. Mom started forgetting things. First little stuff, missing appointments, confusing names. Then it got worse. She once left the stove on and wandered out into the backyard for hours. She got diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's at 57. I'll never forget the day she sat in my car, holding a sticky note with her address written in her own handwriting, and said, I'm scared I won't be able to find home. I cried for 2 hours after I dropped her off that day. So, naturally, I assumed Morgan would step up. She was married, had more money, lived in a huge house in Atlanta with a stay-at-home husband. But nope. She vanished. Said, I just can't handle watching her like this, and ghosted. She called maybe twice that year. Always when she was driving. Always with a cheerful, hey Chels. Just checking in. How's Mom? Like I was the unpaid secretary for our crumbling family. So I made a choice. I quit my job. Broke my lease. Moved back into Mom's falling-apart ranch house. Became her full-time caregiver. Alone. I took over her meds. Her schedule. Her bills. I dealt with her confusion, her anger, the nights she screamed because she didn't know who she was. I cleaned up after her. I spoon-fed her. I wiped her tears. I wiped mine, too. Morgan? She posted a photo of Mom on Mother's Day with some caption like, the woman who taught me strength, love you always. And that was it. Meanwhile, I was scraping together side gigs at night to pay for groceries, utilities, and adult diapers. Every time I texted Morgan asking for help, can you pitch in for the electric this month? Or, we need to upgrade the safety bars in the bathroom, I got ghosted. Once she replied, sorry babe, things are tight right now. Todd had to upgrade his car. Weary face. Her husband drives a Tesla. I kept screenshots. Every message. Every unanswered plea. Every pathetic emoji response. For 2.5 years, I was a ghost in my own life. A daughter turned nurse turned financial hostage. I started to hate who I was becoming, bitter, exhausted, invisible. But then, one night, I got a call from Mom's caseworker. Apparently, some of the state support programs we'd applied to were being held up because of missing documentation, specifically, legal guardianship paperwork. I asked what she meant. She said, "We can't assign you as her POA unless the other next of kin declines." I said, "She already has." Repeatedly. The woman said, "Then get it in writing. Or go to court." So I did. I called a lawyer. We filed. Morgan was given notice. She never replied. Never even showed up. After the legal waiting period passed, I was granted full guardianship over Mom, medical, financial, everything. The lawyer even added, "This is one of the cleanest cases I've seen. It's like your sister doesn't even exist on paper." And just like that, everything was mine. The house. The decision-making. The medical control. The legacy. And then I had an idea. A slow, cold, calculated idea. If Morgan wasn't going to step up for Mom, maybe she'd be interested in stepping down. Publicly. And I was going to give her the surprise of a lifetime. Because if she wanted to pretend to be the favorite daughter, then I'd show her what it meant to actually be one. So here's where things started to shift. After the guardianship papers came through, something in me changed. Not all at once. But in pieces. I had spent my entire life being told, without words, but with actions, that I didn't matter as much. That I was the backup singer in Morgan's concert. The understudy who never got the spotlight. The other daughter. But now? I had the power. And I wasn't going to waste it. It started with Thanksgiving. I invited Morgan. Honestly, I didn't think she'd come. I figured she'd ignore the message like she did the others. But about 3 days before the holiday, she texted me a selfie with Starbucks in hand and said, "Hey girl. So excited for Turkey Day. Can't wait to see Mom. 2 hearts. Do you need me to bring anything? Or just my sparkling self?" Face blowing a kiss. I stared at that message for a long time. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to type, "You can bring your dignity. You'll need it." But instead, I just replied. "Just yourself is perfect. See you at 4. Meanwhile, I was preparing. Mom was having one of her better weeks. She still mistook me for her sister sometimes, but she could hold a conversation for a few minutes at a time, and she still knew Morgan's name. I cleaned the house, made the food myself, from scratch. Mom always liked my cooking best, though she never admitted it. I bought the good wine. Real tablecloths. Even lit candles. I wanted the house to look perfect, for once, my perfect. At 4:27 p.m., a BMW pulled up. Out came Morgan, wearing a cranberry red jumpsuit, holding a bottle of overpriced wine and a tray of store-bought mac and cheese. Her husband, Todd, stayed in the car. Classic. She swept in like a storm cloud made of perfume and entitlement. "Oh my God, Chelsea. This looks amazing," she cooed, air kissing my cheek like we were acquaintances at a networking brunch. "It's so good you have time for this kind of stuff." She didn't see it, yet, but the trap was already set. Dinner went as expected. She dominated the conversation, bragged about their trip to Turks and Caicos, said things like, "We're looking at a second property, probably Colorado. You know, for ski season." I watched my mom smile at her like she was a Disney character. I let it happen. I didn't say a word, until Morgan brought up the future. "So Chels," she said, sipping wine like she owned the house, "have you figured out what's going to happen long term? I mean, obviously I'll need to be involved, right? I am the oldest." I just worry about Mom in a facility. It might come to that. Ugh, it just kills me. I tilted my head. Then I stood up. I'm so glad you brought that up, I said. I walked to the drawer and pulled out the folder. Neat. Tabbed. Documented. A cover page that read: Legal Guardianship, State of Georgia. Chelsea and Donovan, sole custodian. I placed it gently on the table in front of her plate. Morgan blinked. What's this? She asked, her voice tightening. I filed the paperwork 3 months ago, I said calmly. I tried to get you to participate, but you never responded. So I followed the legal route. I'm Mom's legal guardian now. All decisions, medical, financial, everything, come through me. Silence. Then Morgan laughed, like I was telling a joke. Oh my God, are you serious right now? You went behind my back. No, I replied. I followed the law. You ignored it. She picked up the packet and flipped through it. Her eyes scanned the text like she was searching for some fine print that would undo everything. Her smile vanished like fog in sunlight. You can't do this, she said flatly. I already did. You're trying to punish me. You always hated that Mom and I were close. I looked at Mom. She was smiling at the mashed potatoes like they were telling her a secret. I'm not punishing you, I said. I'm protecting her. You left. I stayed. That's not favoritism. That's presence. Morgan stood up, almost knocking over her wine glass. Her chair scraped the hardwood with a screech. This is sick, she spat. You want to control her like she's your doll. I leaned back. No. I want to make sure she's cared for by someone who actually gives a damn. And that's when my mom, quiet until now, looked up, eyes foggy but wide, and said, Chelsea makes me breakfast every day. It was quiet. Barely a whisper. But it landed like a thunderclap. Morgan looked down at her, then at me. Her eyes were glassy, but there was no warmth. You're dead to me, she hissed. Funny, I said. That's how you treated Mom. She stormed out. Didn't even say goodbye. The door slammed. Her husband peeled off down the street in the BMW. I swear, a piece of the house vibrated. Mom looked confused. Was that Morgan? Yes, I said. She had to go. She always has to go, she said, almost dreamily. I sat with her for a while after dinner. She fell asleep on the couch, head on my shoulder. I watched the candles burn low, listened to her shallow breathing, and felt a peace I hadn't known since childhood. It wasn't just about revenge. Not really. It was about the first time in my life I felt like the daughter who mattered. But the story doesn't end there. Because a week later, I got a notice in the mail. Morgan was contesting the guardianship. She'd hired a lawyer. She wanted our mother back. Not because she missed her, but because she'd realized she was about to lose the inheritance. A week after Thanksgiving, the envelope arrived. Cream-colored, official-looking, with my name typed in block font across the front. I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. Something in me already knew. Inside, a formal notice that Morgan, through her attorney, was contesting my guardianship. It felt like ice water down my back. The letter cited concerns over Chelsea Donovan's ability to provide adequate long-term care for Denise Donovan, and proposed that Morgan be added as co-guardian with shared decision-making rights. I laughed. Actually laughed. The woman who hadn't changed a single adult diaper, hadn't called her own mother in months, and who once told me she didn't do illness? Now suddenly she wanted to be in charge? Yeah. Right. But that wasn't the worst part. Attached to the notice was a list of requests for financial documentation. Copies of bank transactions. Property assessments. Life insurance policy details. That's when it clicked. This wasn't about Mom. This was about the money. You see, before her mind began to slip, my mom had a decent-sized life insurance policy, $250,000, split evenly between her two daughters. Morgan knew this. And now that I was guardian, I could request changes to that policy. If I wanted, I could reallocate funds to cover future medical care, meaning Morgan's half could disappear. She was trying to stop that from happening. Or at least, make sure she stayed in the picture long enough to cash in. I called my lawyer, a woman named Grace Holloway, who had the fierce energy of a prosecutor and the bone-dry patience of someone who'd seen it all. She read the letter, leaned back in her chair, and said, "Let her try." I told her, "Morgan's good at pretending. She's gonna put on a show." Grace just smiled. "Then we'll put on a better one." The court hearing was set for mid-January. In the weeks leading up to it, Morgan went full PR mode. She began showing up to Mom's house, unannounced, usually with her husband Todd in tow, and acting like she'd never left. She brought flowers. Took selfies with Mom. Posted videos on Instagram of her brushing Mom's hair with captions like, "Even when things get hard, I'll always show up for you, Mom." And of course, her followers fawned over her. "You're such a good daughter." This made me cry. "She's lucky to have you." They didn't see the reality, Mom staring blankly into the camera, not knowing who was holding it. Me, standing just outside frame, exhausted, ignored. Morgan began calling me territorial in text. She told me I was isolating Mom from family and accused me of financial gatekeeping. She even filed an anonymous complaint with Adult Protective Services. Yup. Claimed I was neglecting our mother. An agent showed up at the house. I invited her in, gave her the tour, let her see the meticulously labeled medication trays, the grab bars, the meal prep fridge. She asked Mom if she felt safe. Mom smiled and said, "Chelsea makes pancakes on Sundays." The agent closed the case the same day. But still, I was rattled. Not because I thought I'd lose, but because I finally saw how low Morgan was willing to go. It wasn't about Mom. It was about perception, control, and legacy. But if she wanted a battle, she was going to get one. The hearing was quiet. Sterile. Just the courtroom staff, the judge, both our attorneys, and us. Morgan came in full armor, hair curled, heels clicking, wearing a black turtleneck like she was in mourning. She played her part well. When she took the stand, she talked about regret and distance, and how heartbroken she was that she hadn't been around more. She cried on cue. "I just want to be part of the process," she said. "I want to make sure our mom has both her daughters involved in decisions." The judge nodded politely. Took notes. Then it was my turn. Grace handed me a file the size of a textbook. I laid it on the table. Inside, every text, every missed call, every receipt. Every time Morgan said she couldn't help. Every Instagram post that contradicted her courtroom tears. I didn't cry. I didn't need to. I just told the truth. I told them about Mom's episodes. About the 2 a.m. pacing. The hallucinations. The time she locked herself in the bathroom and thought the mirror was someone trying to take her skin. The food refusals. The falling spells. And I told them how Morgan had been absent through it all. "She wants to co-sign decisions," I said. But where was she when Mom forgot how to use a fork? When she forgot who I was? Grace slid a printed screenshot across the table. It was Morgan's Turks and Caicos post. Dated 3 days after I asked her for help getting Mom into a neurologist. The judge looked at it. Then at Morgan. Then at me. And then he said, "I see no compelling reason to alter guardianship. Ms. Donovan," he looked at me, "your petition stands. Full authority remains yours." Bang of the gavel. Just like that. It was over. Morgan didn't look at me as she left the courtroom. Her heels were louder now, somehow. Todd trailed behind her, silent. I stayed behind with Grace. She hugged me before she left. Said, "Go celebrate." But I didn't. Not yet. Because I knew Morgan wasn't done. And neither was I. A few days later, I found a folder tucked in my mom's old cedar chest. Inside, letters. Dozens of them. From our dad. He'd written to us after he left. Every few months, for years. I didn't even know he'd tried. Morgan had told me once, he left and never looked back. But it wasn't true. He'd written birthday letters. Sent photos. Apology notes. He asked Mom to give them to us. She never did. They were all unopened. Hidden. And at the bottom was one last envelope. Addressed to the daughter who stayed. Inside, a single page. If you're reading this, your mom must have finally let go. I always knew one of you would hold things together when she couldn't anymore. I hope you know it was never about who was first. It was about who was still there when it mattered. Love. Dad. I sat there, shaking. Not because I was sad. But because for the first time in my life, I realized, I wasn't invisible. Not to him. Not anymore. And I wasn't done surprising people. One more move. One final play. Because I just made a call to the lawyer again. This time, to talk about Mom's will. The last thing I expected to find buried in an old cedar chest was a letter from the man who vanished when I was 5. But there it was. And after I read it, something inside me crystallized. Not anger. Not even grief. Just a clear, cold resolve. For nearly 3 decades, my mother had shaped the narrative of our family. She made Morgan the center of the story and pushed me to the margins. Now that her mind was slipping, that old narrative was rotting away with it. And I wasn't going to let Morgan pick up the pen. I was going to finish the story. On my terms. A week after the court hearing, I met with Grace again. I brought her the life insurance paperwork, the property deed, the bank information, and Mom's existing will, which, of course, split everything 50-50 between Morgan and me. Grace took one look at it and raised an eyebrow. "You sure you want to do this?" "I'm not erasing Morgan," I said. "I'm just revising her role. Because here's the thing. Even with full guardianship, I couldn't rewrite the will for Mom. But I could do the next best thing. I could have her meet with a third-party estate attorney. One who specialized in elder law and had a team of cognitive assessment professionals on standby. If they deemed her lucid and consistent in her wishes, even for a short window, that will would be valid. And that's exactly what happened. The assessment took 2 hours. The lawyer asked her questions, showed her photographs, gauged her memory function. And somehow, some way, my mom had a clear day. Not perfect. But clear enough to speak for herself. When they asked who she wanted to handle her affairs when she passed, she said, "Chelsea. Always Chelsea." When asked about splitting her estate, she blinked, then muttered, "Morgan don't visit. Chelsea do." That was enough. The new will was signed, witnessed, and notarized. Everything, house, funds, insurance, was left solely to me. Morgan would get a formal letter from the estate lawyer when the time came. And nothing more. It was done. The call came in April. I was brushing Mom's hair when I noticed her staring at nothing. Not confused, just still. Peaceful. She didn't blink. I called her name. No response. The hospice nurse confirmed what I already knew. She was gone. There was no dramatic gasp. No final whispered message. Just silence. I held her hand for a long time before I called anyone. Even Morgan. When I finally did, her voice was flat. "When's the funeral?" "Saturday," I said. "But there's something else you should know. Mom updated her will in January." Silence. Then, coldly, you made her do that. No, I replied. She did it herself. You just weren't around to stop her. Morgan didn't come to the funeral. She posted an old photo of Mom on Facebook instead, with a caption. My heart is broken. Heaven gained another angel today. You'll always be my first best friend. I love you, Mom. Broken Heart Dove #RIP. The comments flooded in. Stay strong, Morgan. She raised an amazing daughter. You're her legacy. And I just watched. Didn't comment. Didn't correct. I didn't need to. I had the truth in writing. A few weeks later, the estate lawyer sent Morgan the formal inheritance letter. $0. I'm told she called the office screaming. Claimed it was fraud. Threatened to sue. Demanded a copy of the new will. They sent it. She never followed up. I think deep down, she knew. She just didn't expect to lose the game she thought she was winning. I kept the house. I didn't sell it. I renovated it slowly. I turned Mom's old bedroom into a reading lounge with big windows and soft chairs. I framed the letter from Dad and hung it above the mantel. I left one thing untouched, the cedar chest. Let it rest, just like she did. Sometimes people ask if I regret it. Cutting Morgan out. Going that far. And maybe if this had been about money, I would. But it wasn't. This was about the truth finally being visible. This was about showing everyone, including Mom, even if she couldn't always understand, that I was the daughter who stayed. The daughter who fed her. Bathed her. Fought for her dignity. Morgan had the spotlight for 30 years. I'll take the silence if it means peace. I didn't need applause. I just needed it to be over. And now, it is. So Reddit, I ask you. Aita for giving my mom a surprise she'll never forget, and rewriting the ending of the story she never let me be a part of?